What is happening, T-Raters, and welcome back to the channel. So today, class is in session. Grab yourself a pen, a pencil, a marker, piece of paper, whatever it may be, because we need to sharpen those pencils. And by the title of the video, I'm sure you can understand where I'm going with this. So today, we're going to cover not one, not two, but three George Sharp stocks and his shells and where they're at, where they're going, what has happened recently. I know a lot of people love George Sharp and some don't. I'm very neutral. Sharp did block me on Twitter for I have no reason why. Maybe it was the animated GIFs that I was making, with his head slam dunking money bags. I don't know. But George, if you're watching this, go ahead and unblock me. I've longed a bunch of your stocks, so, let's have some fun. I wish you all the best and going forward. But before we hop into the video, make sure you give the video a like. Make sure you comment down below, subscribe. Let me know what you're looking at. Let me know if you own any of the stocks we're going to talk about and, your sentiment on them and where you think they're going. So let's get into the video. All right, so as we get into this video, we can talk about George Sharp and his shells and, what you think about them. Because they can be quite volatile. But they can also provide big gains. So everybody remembers that huge TNSP, into Humble, that big run from trips to dollars, last year, the year prior, and how that really ignited the OTC bull run. Millionaires were made, and it can still happen again. In current market conditions, a lot of people are just trading and flipping on, they will, long some stocks, they will swing stocks for longer periods of time. But I got another opportunity on one of the stocks we're going to talk about today. And, I thought I had already missed the boat. I was like, you know what, it's already up really high, but, something happened and it caused a drastic sell off and gap down. So, I thought it was a perfect opportunity to grab a lot of it. And, I'm going to ride with George Sharp on this one all the way to the top. So, we'll see how long it takes. But I'm going to show you why I think it's such a good deal at these levels. But, I'm not a financial advisor. George Sharp will tell you, I'll put it in a tweet up here in a little bit saying, if you don't have patience, don't touch my stocks. Because it could take a year, it could take 2 years, but I think it will have continuous growth. A lot of his stocks do. And a lot of things come with his ego. But he also wants to do it right. He wants to say, I'm not going to pump my stock. I'm not going to be like one of these OTC CEOs pumping my stock for this, pumping my stock. But all it takes is one George Sharp tweet, and this thing is flying faster than you've ever seen. You won't even be able to catch any. It'll just explode. So first one we're going to talk about today is SRNW. I actually just grabbed some of this the other day. Didn't get a lot, but I have several different accounts, as we stated in my last videos. And this one I was like, I'm going to kind of pepper it in, as we talked about in the last one, start accumulating a little bit. But they just had a drastic share cancellation. Several hundred million. And we'll look at the chart here. This chart is awesome. So, if you were one of the originals to really get in early, 60 cents and so forth, you're sitting pretty good right now. But, as you can see, leg up, leg up, and now we're basically sitting around this area. And as you can see, what do we have here? The 21, 8MA, both around this 230, 250 range. So, it is a very low float, but, accumulation all-time high. This thing is not moving anywhere. Pending something bad happens, something gets extended, first line of support, I think was it like 190s, and then you have 180 here is going to be the 50 MA. But what's special about this one is, pull up their Twitter, and everything they've been working on, the court signed the order to cancel the shares. And let's see here, it was, 220 million, which is incredible. So as you can see, held at DTC is a little over 7.5, and then outstanding shares 16 mil, unrestricted 15. So, I'd say it's somewhere in between that realm. It hasn't been updated in a couple weeks. So, held at DTC. So let's just call it 10. So 10 mil float. But they're actually going to do a forward split and possibly even two. So I'll put George Sharp's tweet here now. I guess they want to create a little bit more liquidity in the market, by doing, whether it's going to be a 5-to-1 split and then another 2 split and so forth. But The motion to terminate the custodianship will be heard on August 8th. So that's coming up. So once they cancel that, it could be go time. Like I said, these stocks take patience, as George Sharp says here. If you do not have patience, do not buy into his stock, because a lot of people, I think this can be a huge investment. Just grab some and just let it ride, as the mergers come and so forth. So, you definitely want to have risk management, but you also want to have cost opportunity. So don't oversize yourself in something that you can't buy dips in. Don't oversize yourself in something that, you might want to sell. So this is one of those ones to just accumulate slowly. So, as they say, flip the garbage, hold the real stuff. So, as we talk about SRNW, but I only have a little bit of this one. I think it's really cool. It's kind of under the radar. Nobody knows exactly what he's going to do with it, but, there are a lot of like blockchain, different NFT, crypto and so forth. But the next one we're going to talk about, WNFT. So this one is the one that I think is just an incredible deal, and we'll talk about why. So why is WNFT such a good deal right now? So, a lot of people are long in the stock, and something had happened that caused it to gap down, and it was very unfortunate, but it provided an opportunity for others who were not in to get a really good position on this stock. So as you can see here, it channeled for a while, into all the proceedings, all to the court events, and, waiting to get shares, canceled, waiting to get the name change. So far, it has had a name change. It has had a 3-to-1 forward split. So these numbers here, basically, they were 3 times their value. So, if we're looking at 20 cents, it used to be 60 and so forth. But this thing, it dipped down and it moved back up pretty strong after the split. And then a lot of people sold off after the split and so forth. But being 20 cents, it was still in that realm of 50 to 60 cents of what it was before the split. So everybody's like, okay, merger time. And then, just looking at their tweets, they basically said WNFT reaches the promised land after shedding its golf persona. The company will address its shareholders next week in a press release. Please do not rely on other people's assumptions. Only rely on the filings and statements made by the company. Very smart. That's the way George does it. Listen to this. Don't listen to anybody else. It's probably BS. But, basically, they said they can't move forward with anything until this settlement by Colasi is more or less settled. So, going back to their Twitter, as you can see here, the first step in the Colasi appeal is mandatory settlement conference scheduled for August 11th. So that's coming up. I mean, we're literally under 2 weeks now. It is determined not to give Mr. Colasi any reward for his participation, and basically the SEC to be a fraud. Previous offers are no longer available to him. So, Sharp had offered him a few things before, but the guy has pretty much said that it was a fraudulent enterprise. He didn't pay for the shares. The courts already kicked it out and said denied. So they went through to challenge him, but he wants to appeal it. So, like I said before, it might get thrown out beforehand, before they even go to court. It might not. It could just be the settlement appearance, and then they don't settle, and then they have to do another court date and so forth. But for one, if it gets settled, or it just gets kicked out or denied or anything like that, this thing is going to rip. But as stated before, it's going to take a little bit longer than a lot of normal stocks, because George likes to go through all of the proceedings and cancellations and name change, which a lot of us already done. But I'll post a tweet here. It says crypto's flying and so am I. I'm on a multi-leg city search, and then you put SRNW, put WNFT. So there's probably things happening behind, as states here, working on a conference call as he speaks. But first, we've got to get this Colasi thing settled. He doesn't want to do any mergers until that's out of the way, and we do have the hearing coming up in a few like I said, less than 2 weeks. So excited about that one, especially because it was trading in this 20-30 range. And then boom, gap down. What's crazy though is the gap down. It's like, I think it was unwarranted, but all it is, like, everything's still fine. Like the name change was done. He's still CEO. He still has the company. Still has the shell. So all we're working on doing is canceling out the rest of these shares so we can go into the merger. So to warrant a 80% gap down is crazy. It makes no sense to me. So if this thing gets squared away, if look at here, the 8MA is 0.64. We're right there, and I actually can see the MACD starting to cross. But I'm telling you, like, if this gets booted, it's going to fly. You know, it could trend back up into this range. So, of course, there's always risk. Could take a little bit while. But I'll tell you why I think this is such an incredible opportunity. So, you know, basically this came out July 8th. This was the shareholder update. So, now just looking here, you know, if you go through and read this, WNFT has entered an agreement with, you know, Forwardly. It's basically, you know, for warrants. And it says to purchase 5 million WNFT warrant shares at 32 cents a share. Okay, we are at 6 cents. The warrants were purchased at 32. So the warrant must be exercised either in full or in part within 2 years of issuance. Forwardly will pay WNFT $200,000 for this warrant. Mr. Sharp, CEO of both WNFT and Forwardly. So Sharp got warrants at 32 cents a share. Stock's at 6 cents. Okay, merger hasn't even happened. We get this share debacle out of the way with Colasi, who's already been denied twice, and then we're Gucci. We're on our way back up. So that's why I think it's such an incredible deal. I grabbed a lot, and you know, they basically, the warrants have to be exercised within a couple years, so I can hold, no big deal. You know, I'll focus on trading other things and just let this one simmer and continuously grow. But also, WNFT is in the process of negotiating up to $5 million in equity financing for, you know, successful acquisition or reverse merger targets. So I think there are things happening behind the scenes. I'm sure he's negotiated with people and said, hey, you know, look, got to get this thing done first with the courts. You know, as custodian plays take longer than normal, you know, they can provide 10x gains, really. I mean, especially from this level. So, you know, if we're sitting at 5-6 cents, this stock has already hit, you know, 60 range. So why not? Why can't it do 10x again? You know, if he has warrants at 32, you know, steal 500%. So definitely love this one. Parked a lot of money here, and you know, of course, I'll take the risk. You know, I'm not saying you need to. I'm not a financial advisor, but you know, riding with Sharp on this one. So excited to see what happens, and I'll do a follow-up video as well. You know, after the court proceeding, saying, hey, look, this is where we're at. It could take this long, and so forth. But you know, they stated, you know, that they don't want to give him anything. So that's the plan. Just looking at the chart, you know, boom, 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 all the way down here, channeling. So, you know, as they say, all gaps fill, right? Well, cool. Fill me this gap in the 20s and 30s. So definitely excited about that one. Keep that one on your radar, you know, heading into August. And then, you know, we'll see where it goes. But the next one we're going to talk about today is GVSI. I call this one bags to riches because just about everybody and their mother and grandmother own this stock because it was cheap at one point. It was the hot custodian stock a year ago, but it did not get pink in time. They want to go to the SEC route. They can't go to the SEC route because it's just a muddied mess. So this thing has been climbing, and I'll show you why. But when I say even your grandmother, my grandmother actually has shares of GVSI, and she talks about it all the time. She's like, hey, the vibrating shoes stock is moving up. It's moving up in the world. So I'm like, you got it, Gmal. You know, we're gonna bank on this one day. But you know, looking at the stock, this thing just got killed off because it went into expert market. So the only people that could buy expert, I know Canadians, you know, I have a bunch of friends in Canada. They've just been loading the boat. You know, a lot of interactive brokers can buy in different countries and so forth. But you know, just looking at this, so the things they've kind of put out recently is during the SEC review that it was discovered that the designation of class preferred shares is by they can't do a Form 10, so they're basically going to have to, you know, refile and so forth. Then they said our attorney's auditors concluded it's impossible to audit GVSI, so they're going to do the old-fashioned route, you know, just going OTIC access, uploading filings, and you know, attorney letter and so forth. But it says it'll be completed within 60 days. Then, motion to require written proof of claim when opposed and expect the court to sign off at any time. This will eliminate any third-party debts. So things are in motion with GVSI. The only problem is a lot of people can't buy. So, you know, if you're a U.S. resident, you probably can't buy the stock, but that's why not many people are going to sell because things are in motion. So they're like, well, if I sell now, I won't be able to buy back. So, you know, looking at the chart, this thing has just been grinding up. I mean, it is getting bought up. Accumulation's all-time high. And, you know, I'll actually put this up here. So this guy, Cold Hard Cash, good friend of mine, you know, is basically saying, check out the chart. Check out the accumulation. It's climbing. MACD cross. Flipper slowed right down. So basically saying people aren't going to flip it anymore because we're getting close. But check this out. So unopposed, we expect it to be, you know, within 30 days. Oh, no, that's not the one. Right here. All right, so to be filed with an OTCM within 60 days. So that was on 6/30. It is now 7/31, 2022. So we are a month in. So this thing could have filings within the next month, which is just brain exploding because people have been holding this thing. I know people with millions of shares just ready for Sharp to take it to the promised land. So that's exciting. I mean, if you have the opportunity to get this, if you are in Canada, you have Interactive Brokers, and wherever you are outside of the US, I would buy some. Like, yet again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I would be all over it, loading the boat. And just looking out, with this chart here that shows, in the year, this thing traded up in rounds of 4, 5, 6, 7 cents, died down sub penny, and now it's starting to climb back up. So chart looks good. I think it's going to be an exciting one. If they get this thing pink by September, October, before the end of the year, we could see another OTC bull rally, rallying around the George Sharp stocks. But like I said, everybody has their stigma about them. Some people like them, some don't. But, just doing the recap, SRNW, they have their proceedings coming up on the, where is it? August 8th, and then we'll file corporate action with FINRA seeking an initial forward split of common stock 5-1. So, SRNW, they want to do a 5-1 forward split, and then, they have their custo termination coming up. WNFT, steal of the century. This thing was trading upwards of 20, 30, 40 cents, whatever it may be, and then it gapped down and sold off, all because of some guy that has to get his shares either settled or canceled. It's not going to affect the shell's not going to go into the darkness or the abyss. That just needs to get wrapped up. So now that it's so low at 6 cents, it's basically at 18 cents pre-split, which I don't think the stock ever traded at 18 cents. Maybe custo, pre-custo. It was generally around 25, 30, 40, 50. So I think it is the deal of the century. And I know a lot of people agree with me, but of course there is always risk. Coming up August 11th, let's get that out of the way. Let's get Sharp, rolling with the merger. As I pointed out earlier, he said crypto's flying, so is he. WNFT, SRNW. He said he has had conference calls. So things are happening behind the scenes. This is not something you want to just buy and say, oh, it's going to go up tomorrow. But I will say, check it in a month or two, and you're going to be like, wow, I wish I would have bought 5, 6s, and so forth. And then GVSI, bags to riches. Everybody holds this stock, and we've seen it bringing a lot of accounts up. I've seen a lot of sentiment really starting to peak up because, a lot of people hold tons of stock in this, and it's up over 100% in the past couple of weeks. So, exciting times ahead. But, yeah, so that's wanted to cover those with you guys today. They're considered investment. A lot of people say, oh, I don't invest in OTC. I trade OTC or I swing it. And you could do the same thing, but just keep in mind that this is going to take longer than usual because there are different channels to go through. There are proceedings to happen. There are court, custodian discharges. There's mergers. There's all kinds of stuff that are going to happen behind the scenes. But it could bring incredible value. So I hope you guys liked the video today. Make sure, like I said earlier, like, subs, comment, let me know what you're looking at. Let me know if you own any of these stocks, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.